Hello, you're tuned in to the Danny Rossiter Music Marathon Podcast Edition. Broadcasting live from an undisclosed bunker. I'm your host, Danny Rossiter, former music mogul, current radio outlaw, part-time tire fire. It's been 17 years since I was blackballed from the community radio for crimes against taste. But guess what? I'm back! Reanimated, rebranded, rejected by every major sponsor, from Tim Hortons to that one tire place in Naboo. But, whatever. Let's open the lines. First caller, state your name, whether you're here to sue me or seduce me.
Danny?
Hi.
This is Sharon.
Hello.
You left your saxophone at my cottage in 2009. It's with your nephew, Brent. Please stop calling me collect.
Okay, well, that wasn't me. That was my twin, Jason. Moving on. Coming up on today's show, a deep dive into the top 5 bands that ruined their careers by ignoring my advice. Then we're going to move on to a bootleg concert from 1996 I may or may not have been kicked out of. And then we got a little segment I like to call, I read some passages from spooky stories from Cape Breton. This community radio, like your NAND warned you about, and the CTRC, if you're listening, this is all parody, allegedly. We're going to move on. We'll be right back after these sponsors and a word from my conscience.
Hi, this is Tammy from Washabook Falls, Dry Goods and Discount Furniture. Are you sick of paying an arm and a leg for furniture you just want to use that doesn't got to be all fancy like? Do you wish your goods would stay dry? Well, if you come here, you won't regret it. Tammy's Dry Goods and Discount Furniture, now specializing in wet cat food.
And we're back. So we're going to go into a segment I want to talk about. The top 5 bands that ruined their careers by not taking my advice. I mean, I can't convince everybody. Some people just don't want to listen. You can lead a fish to water. They can teach them to swim. First on the list, I used to like them. They were a good little group, but now, I'm sure you've all heard the mess that they created. It's funny, it's ironic because it's the name. Mike Dirt and the Dirty Works. They were a good group. They came together in dire times back when the swine flu epidemic was hitting the nation. I told them, you gotta get rid of the actual dirt on their look, because they tried to make it like a whole look with, like that character from Charlie Brown, the Dirt Kid. They look like that, like there's flies around them and stuff, because they're like, oh, it's just part of this, it's the Dirty Works. I'm like, you're not gonna sell tickets. People you smell bad. You're leaving a trail. And they didn't listen. They made it far on the radio because people couldn't see it or smell it, but once they got in person, no one wanted to deal with that. So that's number 5 on my list. The other list, member we have, Mr. Sister and the Brotherly Love. They were good. They had a good sound. I liked the way the presence was really nice on stage. But once they started to get really into the brotherly love part, it got weird. And I didn't know if they were actually related. People said it was like, it might just be like the White Stripes, but I'm pretty sure they really were related, and it got strange. I didn't like that. I told them they should really tone that down, and people started to catch on, and they were shunned. Understandably. Next up we got Ken Gentry and the Gentle Touch. He was cool. He was alright. he had like a raspy thing going. It was kind of like a Tom Waits thing, but then once like he got his band, The Gentle Touch, and they were not gentle at all. They were really actually horrible to me and all my staff. They were horrible to my family. They brought down like all of these huge, like, it was just, we didn't need that. And Ken didn't accept my advice to say, get rid of the Gentle Touch. They're not gentle. And he was like, oh, they're pretty gentle. Like, I don't know. I'm like, they're obviously not. Anyway, it didn't go good. And he's, I think he died, actually. So, yeah, rest in peace, Ken. What was that, 3, 2? I don't know what we're at here. We'll say we're going to number 2 now. So, number 2 on the list of people that should have listened to me that ruined their careers. The Porch Party Pirates. These guys were so good. They went to every event. They had a great energy until they flew too close to the sun. Their main guy, I forget his name. I think it was like Josh or something. I don't know. He ran over that person's foot at that party, and then he sort of everything just went sideways. I told them at the beginning, you guys got potential. Don't fly too close to the sun. I know what it's like. And then they ruined it. They went overboard. I missed their sound. They were a good crew. I think I saw one of them at working at McDonald's. I'm not sure. All right, and number 1 on our list, I'm sure you guys all know who I'm going to say. Chester and the 7 Seas of Why. So amazing. It was like the Rankins meets Mbop. I don't even need to like say anything else. It was so good, and then he just completely let himself go. He ate way too much. He had diabetes, and he fell down those stairs. We missed that, and it's just, I again told him, watch your weight, watch what you're doing to yourself. You could go far, and he just could not. I brought him to a buffet once, and he just never left. He just kept going back, and I said, I know it's good. I know what it's like. I can't stop eating either. Sometimes I can't stop eating, but look, I'm not, I go on walks. He just wouldn't stop, and he didn't get exercise, and Chester, man. If anyone hears from Chester, tell him I love him, and get him on the Atkins diet or something like that. All right, we'll take a break, and we'll be back after we hear from these messages. Alright, welcome back. We just had a little break there. We were going over top 5 bands that didn't listen to me ruin their careers. So we went over that. What do we got next? Can you tell me what we're doing next here? Oh, right. Oh, yeah, before the stories. We have a caller. Okay, hello. Who do we have on the line here?
Danny, this is your grandmother calling you back, and I am ticked off. Please stop calling asking for help. 5 years ago, I asked you to get me some toilet paper because I couldn't go out during COVID, and you still haven't dropped it off to me. I had to rip up newspapers to go to the bathroom until somebody went and picked me up some toilet paper. Anyways, 5 years later, I'm sure that you can still read the news off my ass. Lose my number.
I don't know, just read the newspaper. Can you call her back and tell her to never do that again? Alright. Okay, so if if you're from Cape Breton, you might know that there used to be a Cape Breton magazine. And it talked about all the things that were happening in town and stuff that aren't that like before the internet. And they even had like advertisements for like Burger King. Something King. And so I wanted to go through and just kind of, show you what life used to be like in 1985. First it says, "Happy birthday, Sydney," from the Sydney Shopping Centre. That's funny. There isn't even a Sydney Shopping Centre anymore. And then it goes into a little bit of facts about the founding of Sydney in 1785. During a frigid November of 1784, British settlers aboard the Blenheim arrived in Spanish Bay, otherwise known as Sydney Harbour. They dropped their supplies off at Point Edward during a snowstorm, then sailed to the mines of Sydney, Sydney Mines, where there was some shelter to spend the winter. They were soon joined by Frederick Wallet de Bars, who had been appointed the first Lieutenant Governor of the colony of Cape Breton. So that's the guy who founded Sydney. His name was de Bars. And if you didn't know this, they named Sydney. He named Sydney after his buddy, Sydney something. The same guy who named Sydney, this town, named the Sydney, Australia, after the same guy. So he really liked the guy. So he named two places after him, and one of them was in Australia. Right? Crikey. And then the other one was here, and it's like we're related. We're related to the Australians. So if you ever wonder, hey, that's like, people were like, oh, Sydney, Australia. Yeah, it's from the same dude. That's the kind of fun facts we like to talk about here. And if you're downtown Sydney and you go by the big glass building, there's a statue of him. And sometimes they put scarves on it because it's cold. But he's a statue. It's funny because, like, he can't, obviously, he's not. Anyway, yeah, so the founding of Sydney. Something New York, something Lewisburg. Some American loyalists came here. Funny thing, I was told by an old man, if you're familiar with Petersfield, it used to be a big mansion, and there used to be a super rich guy that lived there, but he came from New York City, and he was actually banished, I know what that's like, from New York City, because he tried to assassinate George Washington, because George Washington was a bad guy, actually. He's one of the baddies. And so the guy came here to hide, and then he's like, I'll make a big house. And then, I don't know what happened, and now it's a park. Little bit of history. Alright, we're going to take another break, and we'll be back, and I'm going to talk some more. Oh, hello, welcome back to the Danny Rossiter parody podcast, sorry. Yeah, I just told you some cool facts about Sydney. I told you some things. I went down memory lane. Now I'm going to tell some spooky stories. The first one I want to tell is called Donald John McMullen and the Man Called the Pig. And hopefully they don't mean a police officer, because that would be very mean. What page was it on? I'm supposed to have this right. 17. Okay, so here we go. There was a man called the Pig, and a good many people would think it wasn't a nice name, but it was. My grandfather told me the story. This man had a big black dog, according to my grandfather. He knew him well, and the dog would never pay no attention to nobody. That's a alright way to say that. He'd look at you, wouldn't growl or nothing. But the man went fishing this night. Fishing for salmon or something. It actually does say salmon. Spearing. We did that here, you know. Spear salmon with a light. And he saw a light ahead of him around a turn. He came up with a stranger. The stranger said, "You're fishing?" The man says, "Yes." "Well," he says, "why can't we fish together?" "Well," the man says, "I might think that over." "Oh yes," the stranger says, "we can divide the fish. One to you, one to me," he says. "The last big one for me." The man caught on that he had the wrong man with him. This is a shady character. So they start fishing, and soon the stranger says, "We've got enough." "Oh no," says the man, "there's lots of fish in the brook yet. You see, I have an idea or two. That's why I like the rooster. If the rooster crows at any bad persons in the olden times, you were gonna know." So he was killing time, and the pheasant rooster, out of a clear sky, the pheasant rooster crowded in the woods alongside him. He said, "I've got to go. We'll have to divide the fish." They started dividing the fish, and the man started measuring them, even length. But he didn't agree with him, giving him the big fish, the last one at all. So anyhow, the big fellow went. He said, "Only for your trickery we should have this division long ago." All right, the dog never moved. Coming home, there was a big black pig met them, and he charged the man. I guess his shoes weren't too good. He kicked her, and the shoes went off his feet, but the dog came to life and charged the big black pig. The dog and the pig went at it, and they went at it in the water, and nobody ever saw them ever since. What kind of story was that? This was supposed to be a spooky story. That wasn't scary. That was a cool little bit of suspense with nothing really at the end. I think that's enough for our show today. I'm gonna go fishing. Maybe I see a dude there who tries to take half my fish. Until next time, this is Danny Rossiter. You're cool. Bye.